Was it the Falcons pick? What was the one that you knew there was going to be some shit to?
Here, I knew the quarterbacks were going early, Pat.
Okay, got it.
I knew that Penix was in the conversation. I wasn't sure that he was going to go. I knew he could go. I had a feeling that Bo Nix was going to go. We knew J.J. McCarthy was going to go. So in my mind, I just knew that in the first half of the first round, there was a real chance that 6 quarterbacks were going to be picked. And by the way, if Penix had slid past the Falcons at 8 and the rest of the quarterbacks went the way they did, then there was the possibility that the Raiders would have taken Penix. So when we were standing there before the show, I said to you, it's going to be a big night for quarterbacks.
Yep.
And I said, there's going to be some big news. I had a feeling Penix could be in play at 8. I had a real feel that Nix was going to be in play at 12. I knew altogether that it was going to be topsy and turvy and that the quarterbacks were going to fly off the board, and they did.
Yeah, offense flew off the board. I mean, Chris Ballard, with our pick at the Colts, who said we just got the best rusher in the draft because of how offensive heavy the beginning of it all was. We're kind of hearing that my sense from around the internet is like there's 31 teams that are happy with what fan bases that are happy with what their team did. A lot of questions around Atlanta. Have you been able to snoop around a little bit into that situation? I know Kirk Cousins said he's super excited to work with Penix, and Penix just got dropped into this. He's a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
And now all he has to hear about is how dumb of a decision it is. So it sucks for Penix. We would like to let the world know. Have you dug around in that world at all? And what are other teams saying about that particular move?
You know, here's the problem. I got no problem with Michael Penix or taking Michael Penix. But there are some things about it that I think raise some questions. Number one, they were at 8. They could have traded back to, at the very least, number 10, gotten something from the Jets, who had some interest in moving up in the draft. The Jets would have moved up. The Falcons could have moved back 2 slots, gotten an extra 4th-round pick at the very least from the New York Jets. That's number one. You could have moved further back if you would have liked that and really been willing to roll the dice that the Raiders wouldn't take Penix. Again, no issues there. And then I guess my question would be, you signed Kirk Cousins in March. If you know you're all in on Michael Penix the way they are, then why would you give Kirk Cousins $100 million before? Now, they had a lot of defensive needs, but in rounds 2, 3, 4, they took 3 players along the defensive line. So you could justify it that way and say, look, they got help up front and they solidified the quarterback position. And the whole thing with this franchise was after they traded Matt Ryan to Indianapolis, they felt like they had one quarterback and they never had any quarterbacks. And I think they were scarred by that, so much so that they wanted to address the quarterback in free agency. And then it was important to them, it was always going to be important to them, to address the quarterback position even more. They loved Michael Penix. Raheem Morris was a huge Penix fan. And so the way that they figured it was, we're going to lock up this position and we're going to make sure that we don't have any questions or doubts in this spot. Again, my number one question would be, why would you not trade back to try to get him an extra and pick up extra draft capital? Because you could have done that. They say somebody would have taken Michael Penix before 10. That wouldn't have happened. I'm just telling you, that wouldn't have happened.
Okay, so, I mean, Connor just celebrated because of pole catch from Penix, who was phenomenal. And we were all very confused about how Penix wasn't being talked about as a top 10 guy. You know, going into the draft, a lot of us that watched all of college football last year and saw the way he handled his team, his teammates, and the game. It's like, this guy is an NFL guy. Now we're staring down the possibility of not seeing him for a couple of years if Kirk Cousins plays exactly like how Kirk Cousins normally plays. But I guess what Orlovsky is saying from the message that he's getting inside the building is like, if he doesn't play for 2 years, perfect. We transition right into another quarterback. Now he'll be 26, I believe, at the time, because he's already 24 years old. But last year, a lot of backups played. So maybe this decision looks good around week 11 or week 12 if something happens. Nonetheless, you never know how a draft goes for anybody until we see how they play on Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Fridays now, Black Friday, we got a game.
And opening week, we got a game on Friday.
Oh, yeah. So, So,
hey, you know what the old expression is, Pat? On any given Wednesday. Any given Wednesday.
Yeah, especially if it's Christmas. You're asking to get got there. And so I'll be excited to hear what Fontenot has to say about it as it continues to roll on. But trading back, thinking he could get him later seems like a right decision.
Yeah, Shefty, at 3 and even 2, what was the best offer? Because obviously Minnesota, there was a lot of talk of them moving up. Did they ever offer one of their, premier players? And same with even like a Raiders situation. Did they ever offer one of their top dogs, or was it just, the first round picks of this year and next year?
Connor wants me to say that the Vikings offered Justin Jefferson to get up to number 3.
Did they? Did they or not?
No, they did not. Okay. They did not offer that. They offered various pick packages to come up there. The Vikings had the most discussions with the Patriots. And on Thursday, I texted somebody in New England, I'm like, any chance this gets done? And the text I got back a few hours before the draft was 0 chance. 0.
Hell yeah.
So clearly the Patriots were determined to stick where they were. They knew, like everybody else, that Caleb Williams was going 1, that Jaden Williams was going 2, and that they were going to be able to take Drake May. They talked to the Giants, and the Giants, I don't know that the Giants weren't for Joe Alt at 3 as opposed to the quarterback. I know we talked a lot about them.
The Giants really wanted Joe Alt.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I think they wanted Joe Alt. That's my suspicion based on things I've heard from people. It's unconfirmed. I want to be very clear about that, but that's what I believe is they wanted Joe Alt there. And for the right price, if they could have gotten up there and it made sense, they could have done that. But New England never came close to dealing that pick. They were very consistent in the idea that it was going to take a lot for them to move. It was highly unlikely that they were going to move. And then the text came in a few hours before the draft, 0 chance they're moving. It was consistent all along. They always were going to stay.
Okay, so from what you said, the Giants all in on Daniel Jones, right?
Sounds like it.
We want to protect him. And if we can't protect him, let's get him a weapon.
They can be. They're as all in as they can be. Let's not forget, they did bring in Drew Lock, who they like. And if Daniel Jones is healthy, yeah, they'd love to see him be healthy. But you're also talking about a guy coming off the ACL who's had neck injuries.
The eyes.
Durability's been a question.
The eyes.
The eyes, yeah. The eyes.
The eyes.
Yes.
We saw it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That was one of those Adam Gase-like press conferences. You know what I mean? Hey, you look refreshed, by the way. How pumped were you that the draft was over? Pretty pumped?
Yeah, well, it's always nice. To me, the analogy that I use is it's always like finishing finals at the end of the school year. And back then, you're off for a couple of months. Like, what I've learned with this league is it's slower, but you're never off.